Parliament is having to sit late into the night to ensure the Special Prosecutor's Bill is passed before Wednesday. This is because the Finance Minister intends to allocate funds to the office in the 2018 budget to be laid before the House in less than 24 hours, but would be unable to do so if the bill has not been passed. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo reports Parliament has been making amendments to the bill in the last few hours. Ranking member on the Legal Affairs Committee, Yusuf Hussaini, explains until the bill is passed, allocations made to the office will be legal.
But I believe that a provision has been made in the budget for the establishment of the Special Prosecutor's Office. And clearly that's taken up some pages in the budget. And the budget is already in full print. And so we need to pass it. Two, if we don't pass the Special Prosecutor's Bill, and even if the Finance Minister can expunge the entries that's made in the budget in respect of the Special Prosecutor's Bill, it means that he cannot make a vote. Probably the money that the Special Prosecutor will require to take off next year will be added to the Attorney General's department. You can't make specific provision for an institution established or to be established by an act of Parliament without first establishing that institution pursuant to that act. And as we speak, there is no act of Parliament establishing the office of the Special Prosecutor. So a provision in the budget cannot be made for that office.
But the chairman of Parliament's Legal Affairs Committee, Ben Abdullah Banda, is not too sure the House will be able to pass the bill ahead of the budget presentation Wednesday. He has stopped short of spelling out the implications for the 2018 budget. Well, the House is still in session as it hasn't been able to approve the bill yet. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins us live. Now, Joseph, what could be holding up the Special Prosecutor's Bill and keeping the members in the House?
So it's very interesting how things are turning out from what we're seeing on the documents that form the basis of proceedings in the House today. There are 30 different amendments that were supposed to be looked at, and a lot of it happened earlier in the morning. The House went on a 2-hour break and returned to continue, and the processes were running quite smoothly until they got to a conversation around a suggested amendment to the bill that would allow for immunity for the Special Prosecutor and his staff. Let me just quote that portion very briefly, and it says that an authorized officer is immune from prosecution in the performance of his duties under this act if the authorized officer acted in good faith and on reasonable grounds. This is one of the 30 suggested amendments, and the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, raised a litany of concerns about this particular provision and indicated that this would give the Office of the Special Prosecutor and those who work there too much power to do things the way they like. There were objections to that as well from Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu, who is the majority leader, who indicated that he thinks that this is a body that has been set up specifically to deal with corruption, and so they needed all the necessary support and free hands that they need in order to be able to work. Eventually, that provision was allowed in. I would get quick comments on that from a member of the Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament, but as I speak to you, the House has concluded amending the bill per all the 30 different suggested amendments that were listed for work today per this document that I'm holding, and that has been concluded. What we are waiting for next is what is called the third reading, and per the standing orders of Parliament, 48 hours need to elapse between the time that the debate is concluded and when the third reading, which is virtually the final approval procedure, would actually come up. But the House, as we all know, is a master of its own rules. They can even waive that and go ahead and do the third reading and give the approval. But the interesting bit is this. Once the amendments were done, well, a separate item was introduced for discussion. And right now, the Finance Committee of Parliament is presenting a report that has to do with a water project that government intends to undertake in the northern part of the country. Well, when that report is presented, then there will be a debate and possible approval of that particular water project. As to how come the third reading wasn't done to allow for the approval of the Special Prosecutor's Bill, or whether the House would return to that once they are done dealing with the water project, we all wait to see. But let's do some quick analysis on this and get some additional insight into what next now that all the 30 amendments have been done. Roxin Dafiamakwa is the Member of Parliament for the North Dai constituency. He's actually the MP for the South Dai constituency, and he's also a member of the Constitution and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament. Before we get on to the next processes, you were one of those who rose to your feet to raise questions about the suggested amendment to allow for immunity for the special prosecutor and his staff. Why were you objecting to it? Yourself, the minority leader, and a number of others.
Yes, I rose to raise serious legal issues in respect of the suggested amendment. This is because malicious prosecution is a remedy in law available to an aggrieved person who has been proceeded wrongfully against by the state. Now, what it means is that if the state brings a case against you and they fail to successfully prosecute the matter, as the accused person in the case, you have a recourse in civil action to sue for damages, and you bring that relief in malicious prosecution. All you are saying is that the state has maliciously prosecuted you. They prosecuted you with ill motive. They didn't have sufficient evidence to successfully prosecute you, and yet they did so. So that is the principle.
And the immunity sought to clear that up again.
And we are saying that the suggested amendment is seeking to jettison that relief from any aggrieved person in the future, that you don't even have the right to proceed against an officer of the office who maliciously prosecuted you. Now, mind you, prosecution is done in the name of the Republic. And so we are saying that it is not the individual persons who are supposed to be immune, but it is the state. So they ought not to be immune. If you are acting for and on behalf of the state, if you are acting in your official capacity, whatever grievances that a party may have against the state, the party will proceed against the state. But when we say that the officials are immune, it means that they are likely to abuse their office and allege that they abused the said powers in the course of performing their functions. Now, for instance, if a policeman is supposed to apply minimum force to overcome a suspect, but the policeman fails to apply the minimum force and rather pulls out his rifle and shoots the person dead, that is not the meaning of applying minimum force. And in that case, the aggrieved family members can proceed against the state for wrongful death.
But in this case, eventually, the Speaker ruled that the special prosecutor can have a civil immunity.
Indeed, there were two genera of the amendment in terms of the immunity. They were seeking immunity in terms of criminal prosecution and civil prosecution. So they agreed to drop the first leg, which was in respect of criminal prosecution, but they held fast onto the immunity in terms of civil prosecution. But it is okay because the relief is against the prosecuting authority, which is the state anyway.
We'll see how that turns out eventually when the office of the special prosecutor begins to work. And so all the 30 or so amendments that were tabled for today, they are done. How come the bill has still not been passed?
Now, what happens is that, like you said earlier on, there has to be 48 hours elapsed before the third reading can be done.
We've seen Parliament waive that on a number of occasions.
Yes, but this particular bill bled a lot. It suffered about 165 amendments in all to a 79 clause bill. So a few, I think 1 or 2 or 3 clauses, even today, have been referred to the drafting committee for them to redraft. Those are still outstanding. Additionally, 1 or 2 clauses were also stood down. So normally we look at them again at what we call the second reading stage, where another form of amendments are accommodated. For lack of a better word, others call it second consideration, but technically it is not a second consideration. It is a second reading. It is a stage where if there are other amendments other than what had already been carried out are permitted. And if they are carried out, then they form part of the bill. Then it is taken through a third reading and then passed.
So is all of that possible between now and later in the evening in order for the third reading to be done?
Well,
you think?
The way the House is fully packed, they have managed to whip in. When we began in the morning, it was all mainly the minority, especially myself and a few others. But now, by close of about 5 p.m., they have whipped in almost the entire 168 members. And so they are willing, they are ready. I suspect that they may want to bulldoze their way through and pass it today.
And for you, will that be out of place or welfare proceedings?
I mean, it's politics. They want to make the point that, you see, they're already on air saying they've passed it. And so they just want to act in tandem, in consonance with what has been put out. So it's okay. We'll take it in our stride.
The last bit, if it doesn't pass tonight, can provisions be made for it in tomorrow's budget, briefly?
I should think so. It's something we can handle in the morning before the budget is read.
We'll see how that goes. Many thanks for speaking to us. Lawyer Roxin Dafiamepo is the MP for South Dai. He's also a member of the Constitution and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament. And so the processes are ongoing. The conversation is ongoing about a water project that government is seeking parliamentary approval for. Well, we wait to see if the third reading, when it comes to the Special Prosecutor's budget, or the Special Prosecutor's bill, would happen tonight in order for it to be passed eventually. Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, and we are hoping that we can get back to you for an update on this before we wrap up the bulletin tonight. Thank you, Joseph. Still staying with Parliament, Deputy Minority Leader James Aveji is urging the NPP administration to reintroduce taxes scrapped in the 2017 budget to enable government to mobilize enough funds to fulfill its plans for next year. Mr. Aveji cites VAT on spare parts and domestic airfares, which were abolished in the March Asempa budget, he says, are not benefiting the ordinary Ghanaian and rather putting a strain on government resources. He believes scrapping of the taxes is to blame for the NPP's failure to fulfill its obligations outlined in the 2017 budget.
For instance, one, the spare parts staff for tax for the Abosokai people. I don't know whether you use a vehicle, and if you patronize the spare parts at Abosokai, have you seen any change in the prices of these spare parts? I don't think prices have reduced. So that policy is not good. It's denying government revenue and spreading that revenue in the pockets of the traders. So it's not a good policy. We spoke against it, that there is no mechanism in place to ensure that if people who buy the spare parts, which are Ghanaians, are the target people to benefit from that policy, what is the mechanism in place to ensure that when the trader in Abosokai did not pay the tax, the import duty, he transferred that to the price by reducing the price of the spare parts? There's no mechanism. So we said that no, it's not a good policy. The traders will not pay the duty, but they will not reduce the prices of spare parts. And for that matter, it's a way of making money into the pocket of these traders. And that has not been heeded to. So if it's something that they can look at it again and say, hey, we have made a mistake, and for that matter, we are reversing that, that could bring in some revenue to government.
Ms. Aveji expressed concern the number of taxpayers in the country has seen a sharp decline and urged the finance minister to focus on fixing the downward trend if the economy is to work again. Meanwhile, coordinator of ISODEC, Dr. Steve Mantial, is asking the minister to announce clear plans on how to curb corruption in the free SHS program. He says since all money is to be used to fund the program, there is the need for increased transparency. He, however, commended the plan to reduce electricity tariffs in the 2018 budget.
Indication has been given that we are going to see some reduction in electricity tariffs. Of course, not for the ordinary consumer, but for businesses.
Well, is that good enough?
Well, to the extent that the government has promised to create jobs, I see any effort to reduce the cost of doing business as an opportunity to expand job creation. So to the extent that power tariffs will come down for businesses who need the power After all, you and I, what do we use the power for? For entertainment, for listening to news, maybe, and that kind of thing. But we don't use it, a lot of us don't use it for productive purposes. So if we are going to reduce it for the industry, so they can use it for productive purposes and expand their production base and employ more people, I think it's in good step. President has indicated that he's going to use the bulk of oil money to finance free SHS. So that's what I expect to see. But then at the same time, I expect to see mechanisms put in place to deal with any potential corruption that can arise from the use of petroleum revenues to finance free SHS. Don't rule out the fact that we are likely to have incidents of ghost students, as we have had with ghost projects and also had with ghost workers. So these are the kinds of things I expect. Measures to deal with potential corruption in the use of petroleum revenues.
In a related development, as the Kufuor-Addo-led administration prepares to deliver its second budget, Joy News' Justice Beidou spent some time at Aveno, a suburb of Accra, to find out what change the last budget brought to the lives of the people around that area and what they are looking forward to in the 2018 edition.
In one of Accra's oldest suburbs, Aveno, the sun is about setting. I've come to the shop of middle-aged Hannah Kwe. Hannah has been a dressmaker for over 20 years and has seen a good number of young people who want a career in dressmaking. I've come here to find out from people like her what has changed in their business since the last budget was read last March.
But nothing has changed in the markets for us business people. I buy clothes for the work I do, and I can say that the prices have rather gone up.
Last year, this year,
this has affected us. The material we use for
last year, we
were buying some for 50 cedis. Now it's gone up to 60. The ones that were 60 have gone up to 70. This means we also have to increase our prices.
People like Hannah, working in the informal sector, make up the largest portion of Ghana's over 25 million people. It is for people like her that government's budgetary decisions affect the most. And yet, many of them feel disconnected from the process. Because according to her, the announcement's previous budget document hardly make any difference in their lives.
The main budget needs say,
I don't really care about things like the budget, because the things they implement in the budget don't really change anything for us. I think it benefits people in government instead.
A few meters across the street where Hannah works, a typical Ghanaian compound house setting. 55-year-old Na Adole is one of the tenants here. She is a mother of 4. Together with her 2 grandchildren, she has the largest household here.
450. 450. She be a neck and tea, make me only 750. Make me only 700. It was Jala 80 when be an electing with me.
I am worse off now. Prices are on the rise. Look at this. I used to buy it for 45 cedis. Now people even sell it for 80 cedis. The prices of many things have gone up. Even chocolate, I used to buy it for 100 cedis. Now it's about 170 cedis. Pampers, the prices has increased by 15 cedis. This is taking our working capital because we have to sell at higher prices.
1.5. It's a neat I make a 15 cedis, you know. Or Kaka Bonko, Babeno, Bango, no, Samra can live in Angme.
As government prepares to deliver its second budget, hopes are high. Many yet to be reached by interventions that it has already started, like the Free Senior High School initiative, want more, according to Hannah.
Yatisu. And so say they are autonomous.
It's difficult for
but
some of us to feel
can't budget to say Yatisu.
Because even if it's announced that prices have gone down.
I need to me see me the
budget the price of rice has gone down.
Me fine because me who there every female say be I me ba school fees so na we am to me aka say Yati school fees so and as electricity bill.
If I expect anything, it will be for government to bring down prices. This government is less than a year in office and things are already moving too fast. If they increase the prices, then things will be harder.
Many will be watching this year's budget from across the country with bated breath, expecting that what this government says is a budget for jobs will trickle down to them at the end of the day. Justice Bedu, Joy News, Avena, Accra.
We're taking a break on Joy News Prime, but still ahead in the bulletin, government to forge ahead with plans to revert ownership of mission schools to their founders, despite threats it could be sued for it.
He's determined to give back schools. We've heard, and they have never heard you question, when the priests and the churches come to your offices and say, give us back our schools.
Police have also begun investigations into the murder of a female employee of a hotel at Kaswa after she had allegedly been raped at her workplace.
We brought her to the hospital, and when the doctors were trying to revive her, she passed on.
As part of plans to revert management of mission schools to its original owners, the Ministry of Education is expected to hold a stakeholders meeting to engage the various religious groups across the country. President Akufo-Addo had indicated ceding ownership back to the religious bodies could help arrest the decline in moral values. MP for Aswase Mubarak Muntaka had warned government could be dragged to court if it went ahead with the plan, arguing it would be a recipe for the introduction of indoctrination of innocent students who do not share same faith with a particular mission school. The Minister for Education, Dr. Matthew Puku-Prempeh, says the President is still committed to the plan, explaining the ministry will be taking the necessary steps to make it happen. He spoke with Joy News' Kwesi Parker-Wilson.
Ghanaians have decided to vote for his and the NDC manifesto when it came to her. Ghanaians decided to vote for MPP manifesto. He said he's determined to give back schools. We've heard, and they have never heard you question, when the priests and the churches come to your offices and say, give us back our schools. Have you questioned that? Have you questioned them when they said that? So let's be truthful for ourselves and let's respect ourselves. Let's not demean what we mean by what we are trying to do. Government alone has never been able to do schooling. We've done it in partnership. So if the partnership needs to be re-examined, yes, we have to re-examine it.
So has there been an MOU, between the religious...
Now you're asking the questions. We would answer them appropriately. I have a meeting with the churches on 20th and I'll answer them.
So are there time frames for some of these things?
No, please.
Now, finally, Honorable, the issue about free SHS and the challenges associated...
Can I say that I would speak later?
All right, so we're just getting word that the Office of the Special Prosecutor Bill has just been passed. We're hoping that we can return to Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, parliamentary correspondent, to bring us a quick update on that. We have Joseph on the line right now. Hello, Joseph. So just give us confirmation about the passage of the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Yes, Israel, the bill has just been passed. Inusa Fuseni is ranking member on the Constitution and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament. Confirm this, for the third reading has been done and the bill has been passed by Parliament, correct?
Yes, the bill has been passed. It's within presidential assent. Yes.
And it went through a lot of back and forth, but what does this mean for our fight against corruption as a nation?
This means that we're giving effect to the MPP determination to set up an office that will help fight corruption and corruption-related offenses. Okay. And so, having gone through all the motions of Parliament, clearly, I believe, seriously, that the bill will stand the test of time.
it looks to have been rushed in time to for provisions to meet for it in the 2018 budget, which is period tomorrow.
I've said time and again that this bill is one of the bills that has gone through all the motions of the House. In fact, it has gone through a laborious process of having to be considered clause by clause, and actually amendments upon amendments on the floor and advertised are taken to be able to enrich the bill, design and fashion out the clauses in such a way that we will have a bill that will stand the test of time. This bill was never rushed through Parliament.
Okay. By you, the minority, had a few concerns, including the immunity that was to be given to the special prosecutor and a number of issues that came up.
Some members of the minority had an issue with the immunity, general immunities granted the special prosecutor. Others were of the view that the immunity is good because the immunity is not absolute. It can be overreached. It can be overreached if you can demonstrate in terms of Article 296 that the decision was capricious or was biased and founded or motivated by extreme dislike for the person who was being pursued. Then the immunity granted the special prosecutor can be removed. If it can also be established that the investigation or prosecution of a person is not founded on reasonable grounds, then the immunity is removed.
So my final question would be, for you, the minority, some fears were raised earlier that this office may be used to persecute some of your members. There were, issues about it possibly being a replication of the entire justice delivery process and all. Now that it's out, has your position changed on that?
Those fears are not gone. Those fears will not just disappear into thin air.
You still have the fear that...
Those fears are still there. Those fears were the fears that informed the debate on the immunities granted the special prosecutor. Those fears are the fears that characterize the insertion of the words alleged or suspected. Anytime you found debate, on the bill, those debates were founded on the fear. So that fear, we cannot wish away that fear. This is a very important institution of state that we have established, vested with enormous powers, investigative and prosecutorial powers, powers to freeze without even going to court, powers to confiscate upon the orders of the court, powers to seize, powers to trace, in fact, a lot of powers, powers that even the Attorney General doesn't have, apart from the prosecutorial powers. And so many things can happen. That is why in crafting the provisions of the bill, we have been very mindful of the fact that it can be used in ways that can target political opponents. And so we have at all times tried to circumscribe the powers in such a way that it cannot be abused.
Were you able to do that successfully in all the time?
Well, we tried, and I can say without any fear of contradiction that when it came to the protection of personal liberties and fundamental freedoms of individuals, both sides of the House were almost consensus at them on which provisions will circumscribe or pronounce upon the powers in such a way that we will limit or reduce the propensity for the prosecutor to use his office to abuse the fundamental freedoms and rights of citizens. So clearly, all of us were at them.
We see how that goes. Many thanks for speaking to us. The Honorable Inusa Fusenu there. He is the minority spokesperson on Constitution, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. As I speak to you, the members of the majority side are in a caucus meeting within the Chamber of Parliament, even as the House adjourns sitting to tomorrow 10 a.m. in order for the Finance Minister to appear to come read the 2017 budget. But once they step out of that caucus meeting, we will get further reactions from the majority side. But the news is that the Special Prosecutor's Bill has just been approved by Parliament less than 7 minutes ago, and the bill is now awaiting presidential assent. Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. But it is refreshing that we have a key member of the minority actually speaking for this bill and saying that this bill is going to stand the test of time.
It sure is, because when the entire conversation began, quite a number of fears were raised by those on the minority side, even when the bill was being introduced. I do recall that right on the floor of Parliament, lawyer James Adalda, who is the MP for Bulsa South, who is also a key member on the minority side, and in fact the minority spokesperson on legal and constitutional affairs, pointed out during one of the conversations on the floor of Parliament that they are, to a certain extent, of the opinion that this office is coming in just for the purpose of prosecuting some of them who are members of the previous administration. And he cautioned that that office shouldn't be given too much power to operate so that then that doesn't happen. Again, there were concerns by some members of the minority that it may only amount to a duplication of duty, because the work that the special prosecutor is coming to do is virtually the same as what the Attorney General have been doing over the years, what the police have been doing, what the Economic and Organized Crimes Office have been doing. But as you heard some of the minority members, particularly Mr. Fuseni, indicate a while ago, when the amendments were due, they put in all the necessary provisions to avoid abuse by the special prosecutor, and so they are throwing their weight firmly behind that particular office. And obviously, one of the other indications was that a lot of the amendments were actually done by consensus. And even as well, you would recall that initially when the document was laid before Parliament, the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee was supposed to go consider whether it was actually an urgent bill or otherwise. They came back to tell the House that they felt that it wasn't an urgent bill. That was virtually a slap in the face of government, which had the support of the majority side on the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, which indicated that they felt that the right thing had to be done. And so to a certain extent, a large number of the work on this particular document has been done and decisions have been taken by consensus, with both the majority and the minority disagreeing. And so we look forward to what the reactions will be when that office eventually begins work.
Thank you very much, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. And you're still watching Joy News Prime here on Joy News, on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. We're taking a break to bring you business, and in business, we'll tell you what will be the biggest challenge for Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta as he prepares to present the 2018 budget on Wednesday. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, welcome to Business on Joy News Prime. We are close to budget presentation day, and revenue mobilization could be one of the biggest challenges of the Finance Minister as he prepares to present the 2018 budget tomorrow, which has been christened the Ejuma budget. One of the highlights of the 2018 budget would be the projected revenue for next year. This is why many analysts would be looking forward to see how government plans to raise the required revenue to finance its rise in expenditure. So would the Finance Minister be able to pass this revenue test when he presents the budget on Wednesday? We've been trying to seek some answers in the following report.
Government is planning to embark on some massive industrialization programs and grow the agricultural sector with its one district, one factory and planting for food and jobs from next year. All these policies need to be funded. Will it come from donors, the private sector, or revenue raised locally? However, the current challenges with revenue, it is not likely that government would want to depend on revenue locally to support these policies. It is believed that if government raises, let's say, 10 Ghana cedis, about 90% of this money will be used to pay salaries, service loans, as well as the tree payments, leaving little for any infrastructure project or some of these social intervention programs it is implementing. Government was hoping to raise some 45 billion Ghana cedis in revenue. As of July, it has collected 21 billion cedis, 3 billion Ghana cedis short of what it has programmed, raising concerns that it will struggle to meet the end-of-year target, a development that could affect the amount of money available for the state to spend in the first quarter of 2018, which has normally been described as the dry season. For government that is committed to reducing the cost of doing business, increasing taxes in this year's budget is out of the plan for now.
We are deploying technology. In fact, if you look at the tax stamps, there's an important IT element in it. The economic point of sale device is to ensure that as people trade at points of sale, the records of their businesses are actually registered on the server for GRA, so that we are not now come to you to make to file your returns, and then we need to debate you on how much, and sometimes these are not properly declared and government lose revenue. This time round, as you trade, they register on the tax authorities server. And so we just come to you to say these are your tax liabilities you need to pay. So we're going to deploy technology to ensure that the compliance measures work and that we will not have the need to increase taxes. And I would rather have the opportunity to abolish more taxes as we rake in more revenue.
But for Professor Newman Kusi, director of the Institute of Fiscal Studies, looking at the way the economy is expanding is a demonstration that there are a lot of areas that can be taxed. He tells Joy Business it's all about commitment to implementing these policies that will help us address this revenue challenge.
Well, it's commitment to implement, the policies, monitor and ensure that we achieve the target that is set. We will identify, the various areas, that need to be looked at so that we can bring them into the tax base to increase the tax base and therefore be able to increase the domestic revenue.
Well, November 15 might just be some hours away as to how the finance minister would deal with this revenue mobilization challenge. Will he press ahead with the tax exemptions or finally abolish all of them to improve the situation? How will this compliance drive be implemented so it will not come across as new taxes for consumers? The finance minister is hoping to use the 2018 budget to industrialize the economy, transform the agricultural sector, create jobs and develop skills.
Well, still on the 2018 budget, the minority in Parliament has alleged that government plans to tax mobile money transactions as part of efforts to improve revenue for the country. Now, according to the Bank of Ghana, mobile money deposits in banks have reached more than 2 billion cedis as of September this year. We've been picking the thoughts of Chief Executive of the Telecoms Chamber, Ken Ashigbe, on this. He tells us there has been no engagement from government on this matter, and it would be unfortunate if government should go ahead and impose tax on mobile money transactions.
Part it is that, yes, government needs to raise a lot more revenue, and you would believe that mobile money is one way of formalizing the economy. Government has been talking about digitization, so you would want to say that you would use mobile money to push digitization. Government has been talking about, that this whole conversation that paperless happened, and immediately paperless happened, taxes went up because what compliance improved. You would think that government would also want to use this to rake in a lot more revenue. But let's bear in mind that most of the transactions that happen on mobile money is between merchants and agents, and virtually at 0%, about 75 to 85%. So basically what you're looking at is about 25%, and whatever tax you place on that is going to go and affect the consumer. And George, if you're sending money to your grandmother, you'd already have paid your taxes on that. And also, let's bear in mind, mobile money employs a lot of people, and the implication of that tax itself, the signal it would give to people, it would mean that a lot more people would opt out of that. It would affect jobs that are going to be created. And also, let's bear in mind that these agents and merchants, when these transactions happen, government earns some withholding tax on the commissions that are paid to them. So already there's some tax even in that.
Well, so what do we expect tomorrow? The 2018 budget and economic policy statement of government is expected to focus on ensuring macroeconomic stability, transforming agriculture and industry, as well as strengthening social protection and inclusion. Here are some highlights of the projected budget allocations in the 2018 budget. right, so we have extensive coverage of the budget presentation for you right here on this channel on Wednesday. You want to stick around for that. And before we go, Ghanaians can now enjoy world-class homes at highly affordable prices with the construction of 2,000 units of houses at the Apollonia City, which is expected to reduce the housing deficit in the country. The project is a partnership between Apollonia City and Ghana Home Loans, and the first 100 units are expected to be completed within 18 months. Fauziatu Adam has more.
The $30 million project, situated on a 6-acre land, Apollonia City commenced construction in the third quarter of 2017. The project hopes to realize about 2,000 ultra-modern townhomes in the next 5 years per its strategic plan. At the groundbreaking ceremony, President Akufo-Addo pledged government support for the project.
The project is in line with government's vision of using an appropriate mix of public policy and private-public investments to deliver quality, affordable social housing and private housing solutions that meets the needs and financial capacity of the ordinary Ghanaian. Government recognizes the dream of all Ghanaians to own a home, or failing that, at least to have decent rental accommodation. With a housing deficit of over 1.7 million units, the Apollonia City project is one of several initiatives that will be introduced along the housing value chain to attain a cost-effective, efficient, and sustainable housing sector.
CEO of Apollonia City, Bright Owusu Amofra, in his address called on the government to grant them special economic zone status to assist them in growing the Apollonia Business Park, which aims to attract firms in sectors such as manufacturing, processing, and logistics.
It would be remiss of me not to mention the Adenta Dodua expansion plans, which we firmly believe will be a great economic driver to this area, and also facilitate greater ease of transportation of goods from Accra Central to this axis of Greater Accra and into the rest of Ghana. We would encourage a further push in progressing this road expansion for the benefit of all.
For Joy Business, Fauziatu Adam.
And that's it for business. Thanks for watching. We are back with more news after this break.
This is Joy News Prime.
Police in Kaswa have started investigations into circumstances leading to the murder at the Peace Guest House of a female employee there. According to neighbors, the deceased in her mid-20s was allegedly raped before she was murdered. They told Joy News the victim, who was found naked in a pool of blood, managed to pass on information about the attack before she died. Joy News' Maxwell Agwagba has more in this report.
I was somewhere here and then I overheard a cry for being bro, followed by the banging of the door. Being bro. So it was just brief. So I looked back. I was thinking the noise was coming from here, because this is a house. Usually you hear them quarrel. So I walked down there to go and find out if there was a problem there. But I didn't hear them saying anything. So immediately I felt there was something bad. Because if it was to be a struggle or a quarrel, it would continue. But this one, the person went mute. I suspected foul play. So I was coming back. I came and stood here, still looking around, if I can hear the voice again. Then my brother came out. It was then I asked him if he heard someone shout for her. He said no. Immediately I was asking, then the voice came again. And this one, it was clear from here. He said, yes, it's true. The voice is coming from here. So because there's a little water here, I wore my Wellington boots. And fast, I jumped over the wall. But I didn't get inside, and I saw her. She was lying down there, in front there, in a pool of blood, naked. So I asked her, what happened? So then I watched the gate. The gate was opened. So I knew it's true, they have left. 13 to 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes time. The physician assistant, because there was no doctor, he came and told us she has passed away, totally naked. She was totally naked.
In a pool of blood?
In a pool of blood. She was totally naked. But by then, she was a little energetic. because she was speaking. You could see she was energetic.
I'm currently on the stretch that leads to the Peace Guest House. Well, it looks very quiet for an afternoon here in this neighborhood. If you come here right now, the main gate of the guest house is currently locked with a very big padlock. Two of them actually, as you're told. The police officers are still carrying out the investigation to unravel the circumstances under which the young lady was murdered.
The case of this lady was reported to us, and we immediately went to the scene and picked her. And she had not died when we got to the scene, so we brought her to the hospital. And when the doctors were trying to revive her, she passed on.
The Konongo Divisional MTTD says it will charge the driver whose broken down truck caused an accident, which claimed 3 lives at Konongo Tuesday morning. 3 others were severely injured in the accident, which occurred at Konongo on the Kumasi highway, holding up traffic on the stretch for several hours. The driver of the broken down truck is said to have failed to put up warning signs. The MTTD commander, ASP Francis J. Brobe, also blamed the driver of the charcoal truck for failing to adhere to road regulations.
That this particular vehicle was from Kumasi heading towards Accra, and the Burkina Faso vehicle was also from Accra heading towards Kumasi. And what we have gathered here is that the vehicle you see over there loaded with yam actually broke down, broke down in the middle of the road. And so the Burkina Faso vehicle actually didn't see the broken down vehicle, and so by the time he realized there was a broken down vehicle in the middle of the road, he had already reached the vehicle.
Around 1:27 in the morning, I heard an explosion, but I thought yesterday that an accident had occurred, so they were, towing the car, so that noise were due to that, towing. So small time, like 3 minutes, and I came out and I saw, a dust. Yeah, so I came to the roadside and I saw these 2 cars. They are crashed by the driver's side, and one was already dead and one was alive. So we carried the first one inside the car, and they took him to hospital. Before the fire service came, and we took the other body inside the one dead already, with the charcoal driver. We took him outside, we put him on the floor. So we went to the other Burkina driver. So we went there. No, the mate was alive. Yes.
Say yes, another Roman. One per cover Fasua. If you now cosi bronya, and a bronya cracono. Saka Cassibi says Quasua. So was a towing car and post for the Betua. Woman, yes, Edgeman, yes, sir. And if you now cosi bed December and then, Nini Pay Uno. Now, your calculating
driver Sampana Chas, and he was driving Mercedes-Benz cargo truck with registration number GT8493-09 loaded with Checo, bus of Checo from Nkranza towards Accra direction. On reaching a section of the road at the outskirts of Udumasi, there was a broken down vehicle with registration number GT95A2B, which had developed a mechanical fault and had been abandoned on the road by the driver without any warning sign.
Any charge against them?
Yes, leaving vehicle at dangerous position, and then the other one we use dangerous driving. Once somebody is dead, we prepare the docker, send it to the AG's office, and then they will advise us accordingly.
Elsewhere, police and military personnel have been deployed to force defiant traders off the pavement in other unauthorized places in Kumasi. It follows their refusal to comply with an order by city authorities for all traders and transport operators to relocate to the city's race course and other designated markets. Some of the affected business people have argued they have been unable to secure spaces at the new sites. Love Firm's Chrissy Debra reports.
The Kumasi Traditional Council teamed up with Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly to relocate traders occupying pavements and unauthorized places in Kumasi last week. The move follows an eviction notice served by the Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council calling for vacation of such places by Monday. The arrangement also precedes the final funeral rites of the late Asantehema Efiakobi Sewampem II. The movement of traders from some parts of Edum, Kejetia, Pampaso and the Kumasi Zoo has, however, suffered a setback. Security forces were seen standing at vantage points in the central business district, but the traders wouldn't have any of that.
Region where we're standing specifically is a piece at Edum. As you can see, the streets are hollow, the streets are empty. There used to be cars all around here, taxi cabs and also trotro, but they are all not here as a result of the decongestion exercised by the KMA. Today they've been police and also joint military and police action. The traders are still back on the road. We're going to speak with them why they decided to stand in the streets and do their business. That about your process? I say military police about but what that's what I didn't hear.
Oh, and I said that's what I say anybody. Obie no ma opesa trap come to there. So that's and so say there in pen phone be this one. The conference was musician man, you join and just there
should have been a proper dialogue. Evicting us when you are in power isn't proper. I don't like the military action.
If you mean 40,000-50,000, that's what people more call. Military, Afghanistan. I can't talk about how was the military.
Ofi wono ye betu firi wa ontimi yede ontimi firi ho kwa we gina jara wa kra se de be ya so ho de na ntimi ansa na we kwa na wako ana wo ho yesi egu ha ye nkwatena ho e fa ankosie yesi ha ye bode ye hima entosi hima ha ye se ti se ehu de o de ye bia.
We can't vacate here easily like that. No matter the force, we would have to return.
Yes, me cry me buy I am to see a family, Makotolati Mienu. A family, Domu Mobo. Yes, Ropa, Bano Cradi, one ABB. Yes,
we are afraid of the military action.
To almost 1 million Mobo. And it's Yama Yenidi, Nanyamenti and say, me MPP Nipio, and this is time, I'm on 2 years.
The Abinchi market is not conducive for us. They have sold them out to others. I am a member of the NPP. We want Nanado to take action.
Okay. The Abinchi market is not properly arranged to accommodate us. We went there, but couldn't get a place. Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Maternal mortality at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital has improved after mid-year scare, which saw a sharp rise in deaths. Head of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Professor Bafo Poku, put the figure at 70 since the beginning of the year, as compared to 91 in 2016. He spoke at the African Union Commission colloquium at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Kumasi, Kwesi Deborah reports.
Much has been achieved. However, progress is very slow, and we need to review why and intensify measures that we know works. As a country,
Public response to challenges highlighted in Joy News documentary Next to Die saw a drop in birth-related death early in the year. The situation, however, deteriorated in the mid-year, though attendance had reduced. Authorities are, however, hoping the trend for year-end will fall below the 2016 level. Professor Poku attributes this, among other factors, to training of more specialists.
Maternal deaths per se
have been coming down over the past 5 years. From a high of 153 in 2012, now it's about 92 as at last year. And we even expect a further drop this year. So many factors account for this. One, we have trained more specialists to man the hospital. Number two, we have put in place what we call the MAF program, Millennium Development Accelerated Framework. And for this program, we have assigned specialists duties to oversee the district hospitals within Asante region and some parts of the western region.
Newborn mortality at the hospital has also declined, as shared by another official, Dr. Ajwa Pukuya Bwachi-Yadom.
Neonatal mortality for 2015 was 20.1%, and then in 2016 we came down to almost 19%, and then 2017 it seems to be a magic year. We are at 15.8%, and if you look at what Ghana is doing, the Ghana Newborn Health Strategy launch that was launched in 2014. They wanted institutional neonatal mortality reduction by 5% every year. It looks like we have been able to achieve that. We will be able to achieve that in 2017.
Today, 8 years after the launch of KAMA, we are back in Ghana for the annual statutory...
The colloquium is part of African Union's Commission's annual commemoration of the campaign on accelerated reduction in maternal mortality on the continent. It's aimed at promoting and advocating renewed and intensified implementation of the Maputo Plan of Action. It targets to reduce maternal, newborn and child mortality in Africa. Dr. Timothy Aboya is of African Union Commission.
Africa should be able to streamline advocacy for resources, advocacy for technical aspects, and ensuring political governments, all regimes are held accountable for ensuring that no mother should die when they give birth to a newborn.
For Joy News, Kwesi Debra.
The Health Ministry is urging stakeholders within the health sector to intensify their support in the fight against maternal mortality in the country. Addressing the press on the campaign for the accelerated reduction of maternal mortality in Africa, Deputy Minister of Health, Tina Mensah, noted that though measures have been put in place to ensure zero tolerance for maternal death, the progress has been rather slow. She has therefore called on leaders within the sector to liaise with each other to ensure that no mother dies giving life.
Much has been achieved. However, progress is very slow, and we need to review why and intensify measures that we know works. As a country, we have introduced several initiatives and strategies with the sole aim of reducing maternal death, at least at our health facilities, with minimal success. We also have all the structures and systems to enable us bring the situation under control. Despite all this, results are not coming the way we expect. According to the demographic and health survey, about 73% of births are delivered at health facilities and attended by skilled health personnel. I'm reliably informed that the factors that prevented the 25 from reaching the health facilities are beyond the health service, which presuppose that responsibility for maternal health is not the preserve of the health sector alone, but society at large. It is interesting to note that despite making delivery services free at the point of service, substantial portion of pregnant women in Ghana are unable to deliver at our health facilities. It is time we take responsibilities as leaders and ensure appropriate oversight and supervision over those who put into management position to deliver on their mandate. There is no need for a new strategy. What is needed is strong leadership at all levels. We as leaders must continue to equip and staff our health facilities appropriately to improve quality of service delivery. I am convinced that we have right strategies and that what we need is commitment and dedication to duty, and 75% of the challenges are solved.
Chief Director at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Afisa Zakaria, says her outfit is still investigating some allegations against the Diabetes Association in a Joy News documentary, Diabetic Diversions. The president of the Diabetics Association of Ghana, Elizabeth Denyo, denied her own voice in an audio recording in which she admitted to diverting medication meant to be supplied to diabetic children free of charge. According to Dr. Zakaria, though the matter is being investigated thoroughly at a higher authority, the ministry is also doing its own checks at the hospitals named.
There have been a number of allegations in this area. We initiated something like that, and we started with the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. You know, it's accusations and counter-accusations, and we are trying to unravel. And I also know, I'm saying it, framing it up, that this is also being investigated at the highest level, not even at our level.